church and how you're doing, so I can share some of this
Sure.
with the church or on
Yeah.
social media. Because
I'll
I know
try
you're,
not to eat throughout it. That way you don't have to like clip a
yeah,
bunch of things and
that's all
stuff.
right. So I know you're doing missions, but in Germany, does it? Because I know sometimes people go and they're missionaries, and it's very like hush hush, top secret, and like you can't
Uh-huh.
talk about it online. Is this a different context than that?
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah,
And especially in the sense of like I'm doing just university work and
yeah.
stuff. And I'm on a
Mhm.
missionary visa. I'm on a religious visa. So
Okay,
it's not like the country doesn't know why I'm here.
gotcha. Okay,
And,
well that's good.
mhm. And I started even using that like on the campus whenever people ask why I'm here. I used to be reserved about it because that was part of training that I've had in the past for
Hmm.
mission trips. It's like you just don't say why
Hmm.
you're here, that you're a missionary or anything like that. But now I've started to kind of use that just as a conversation starter because like it's easy for me to say like, oh yeah, I was an engineer, and then whenever I tell them I switched to mission work, they're like, that makes no sense. And so it just allows the conversation to keep going and stuff. And
Hmm.
so I've
That's
started to be
cool.
more open about it.
Mm. Do you find that a lot of the college students in Germany are open to having conversations about faith, or are they kind of more standoffish to that?
They're pretty open to have a conversation, but they're not really open to continue the conversation. So you can maybe have like one conversation with them and you can tell them what you believe and you can tell them, um, you know, the the hope that you have and stuff. But like as far as like, hey, let's get coffee later if you want, they're like, no, I'm not going to
Mm.
do that.
Mm.
Or like even if you have a good opening conversation with somebody, even if you see them again later, it doesn't guarantee that they'll stop and talk to you again. It's like,
Mm.
no, the one time was good, like,
Mm.
so they're fairly open to talk, especially if you just ask them what their opinion is. But
Mm.
as far as like them listening to your opinion or going to a coffee shop or meeting up with them later or something, like it's kind of hit or
Mm.
miss. And so,
Mm. I gotcha. So it sounds like a lot of the work you're doing is kind of just those initial conversations. Is that a lot of what your work is looking like
yeah.
right now?
It's
Mm.
a lot of initial conversations and it's a lot of relationship building
Mm.
because, especially for Germans, like, and I think this is common for anybody, but it really shows up in Germany about how they have to kind of trust you and like where you're coming from because religion is a deeply personal topic and they're not just going to talk about that with just any old Joe. They
Mm.
have to understand like, well, why is he asking me about it? Like, what's their motive? Are they trying to just convert me? Like, no, we actually care about you. And so like establishing that parameter up front really helps. And so it all starts with relationship and
Mm.
stuff. So that's what a lot of like the first 3 or 4 months here was building relationships and stuff.
Mm. What are ways you go about building relationships with the college students there?
Mhm. That's a lot of presence, like so whenever they see me on campus and I meet them for the first time, I try at least to like if I see them again, even if they don't approach me, I say, hey, how are you? How are your classes going? Just repeatedly um, be present with them on the campus and stuff. Like that's like one way. And then the second way is inviting them to things. For them to come is kind of, again, the hit or miss thing. But like one example is there is this guy named Lewis that I met, and it was just like one of those cold conversations. It was of like I just walked up and I said, "Hey, we have this question. We're doing surveys. Would you want to take a part of it?" And the question that day was something about something religion focused. I don't. It was a spiritual question. I don't think it was super deep, but I think it had like the smell of religion to it. So
Hmm.
the the so he was with his friend, and both of them answered the question. Both of them talked to us and stuff, and we talked for maybe 10 minutes or so, and it was good talk. Um, and then he was like, "Okay, we're kind of done now." I'm like, "Okay, well, great. It was great talking to you. Hopefully we'll see you. We have an event. Blah blah blah. hope to see you again. And then I saw him again like 2 days later or something. And I was like, I was ordering coffee and he was behind me. He's like, oh, hey, yeah, I talked to you last week. How are you? You know, how's everything been and stuff. And then I ordered his coffee. Like I asked him if he wanted me to buy him something, you know, and that he was like, why would you buy something for me? Like that makes no sense, you know?
Mm,
But ever since then, I mean, it really like solidified like, hey, this guy, you know, I can trust this guy. He's a nice
mm,
guy and stuff. And it really opened like kind of a relationship with him and stuff. And so even just like doing little things for somebody else, it really impacts the students here and stuff.
mm,
Like we had a day where we were handing out free cookies for Christmas and stuff, you know, and they were all like, why in the world are you handing out free cookies? You know, like, are you sure that can we pay you for it? You know, like, so doing little acts of kindness here, it just really kind of is countercultural and it blows them away. And so it opens
mm.
up the relationship to start from there and stuff. And so I try to do things like that. When
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like hospitality and generosity are really big avenues in which you can begin to build those relationships.
Right. Because
Mm,
they have a distrust of religion here. You know, they see the things in the news and stuff, you know, and they have this characterization of what Christians are and what they're like. And just being upfront and hospitable goes against that
mm,
idea and stuff.
mhm. That's
Hmm.
awesome. That's really cool. So what was the gentleman's name you just said? You said his name was
Lewis.
Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Have you got to connect with him much after that interaction? Like, have y'all been able to build kind of some type of rapport or
Well,
back and
like
forth?
after that, I got his number. And I saw him again. I haven't seen him. I should text him now that we talk about it. I saw him again, but I was with another student, and like we just like waved at each other, you know, from
Mm,
across the way, and exchanged a few greetings and stuff, that's good
hmm.
for for Americans. We're like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
anybody. For Germans, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And so, but it's the exam part of the semester, so students are
Mm,
busy, you know, and
hmm.
like each time that I saw him, I think that he was spending like all day in the library and stuff. And so
Mm,
definitely after things cool down, I'll definitely see if he has time to grab a coffee or something like that.
mm. Yeah. It sounds like, like you were saying, like just seeing an acquaintance in America and waving at them is fairly commonplace. So it's kind of like just a pleasantry we do without much thought behind it. But it sounds
Hmm.
like in Germany, if you get that response from someone, it's a sign of like a more genuine connection that's taken place there.
Oh yeah, big time.
Mm,
Hmm.
mm.
Yeah,
So what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing right now in what you're doing?
that's a good question. I think one of the things, at least whenever I look at what was the difference between my college experience and what's the difference between their college experience,
Mm,
and one of those things is the work culture. And so, and because of that, getting students to be present is a huge challenge
mm,
because they're looking at, you know, is this time sync, you know, whether it's going to a community group event like where we read the Bible together, or whether it's going to a game night, or whether it's inviting to a picnic or something like that. They're going to look at that and they're going to say, ultimately, I have finite amount of time. Some amount of time I'm going to waste on TikTok and Instagram, and then another amount of time I need to focus on school, and then the other amount of time I focus on friends, and I don't have enough time for this extra thing that someone's inviting me to, you know.
mm,
And so the getting them to be present, you know, with or open to like coming to events is one of the big challenges and stuff. And the work culture aspect is I've never seen college students who are so eager to go to work. I've asked multiple people about it, and it's like social pressure, you know, and stuff like
mm,
they're telling them to go to work, you know, like in America, you know, college is almost seen as like this really chill, you know, you do your studies, but like you don't you do summer internships, but there's not this like year long work thing. Like I have a friend
mm,
who he goes to work an hour away as a student. He goes to work an hour away for 3 days of the week. Um, and he just does that like the entire semester and stuff. And so
mm,
like if you have events planned throughout the semester and stuff, like the amount of time that he's able to come is like greatly shortened because the other amount of times he's like either hanging out with his friends or um, working on school and stuff. Like he doesn't
Mm,
have to go and
mm,
been at a Bible study and stuff,
mm,
because he has this idea that if he's not working, then he's not being productive and stuff. And so like,
mm,
and yeah, so in that's a difficulty and stuff. And I don't want to ramble too much, but there's one more thing that I think of is friendship culture is also a challenge because, like I said, you know, like friendships are kept close. And so like to invite a random person into a friendship is like crazy. Like the students that have their friends, they're the same friends that they met the first semester of their first year in the first week. Like they rarely grow or change their friend bubble. Like it stays
mm,
the same and stuff. And so for someone from an outsider's point of view, like whenever I'm trying to tell them, hey, invite your friends to come to Bible study, or like, hey, invite them to come to the game night. Like we want to meet your friends, we want to connect them and stuff. Like they're like, no, that's weird, or like
mm,
it's it's uncomfortable, or I just don't want to mix my friend groups.
mm,
Christian friends and I have my non-Christian friends and they don't mix.
mm,
So trying to break that cultural barrier is also a challenge
mm.
and
Yeah.
stuff. Mhm.
Yeah, because especially I feel like so much of our ministry strategy in the West is like event focused or like gathering focused. It's like, hey, get everyone you know and come to this thing. So I can
Right.
see how that would present a pretty substantial challenge in a culture where that's not the norm.
Right.
Mm. I
Yeah.
know I know like well I don't know I hear a lot know that Europe and that part of the world is much more secular than the United States is.
Hmm.
Would you say that has proven true in your time there? Like, do you feel like Germany is a more secular country as a whole than like the United States is? I know it's probably a tough comp because the United States is so vast and like,
Right.
but maybe even just like, I guess Arkansas, I would imagine Germany
Yeah.
is far more secular than a state like Arkansas is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Germany is much more akin to like the Washington State, Portland, Oregon,
mm,
New York City atmosphere as far as like views on religion and stuff.
mm,
Um, and so like if you were to ask a student like if they were a Christian, I would say maybe 30% to 40% of the students would say that they're a Christian, but for them, all that means is that they went to church or they go to church maybe once a year, you
mm,
know, and like for them, that's their church. It's
mm,
not a weekly occurring thing. It's like, no, I'm a member of St. Catherine's Church,
mm,
but I
mm,
only go once a year for mass for Christmas or for Easter or something like that. And so like whereas Arkansas culture, the South, the Bible Belt, where there's a lot more Bible literacy, just like in the people in general.
mm,
We would say that doesn't make much sense. Like once a year, you're barely going. Like that doesn't
mm,
mean that you're a member. You're like you barely even got the pew warm. Uh, but for here that idea that no, I'm not. Why would I be tied to going to a place every
mm,
single is very foreign. It's very similar to like the um the Northwest probably of America and stuff.
mm. And it's almost how you probably still identify as a Louisianan, even though you haven't lived in Louisiana for X amount of years now. But that's like the culture. Like you go back there, you visit there, your family instilled that in you. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm a Louisianan, but practically you would be like an Arkansan or a German
Right.
citizen now. So it sounds like it's similar. That's how church is viewed in that context of like I'm a Christian because like my parents took me to church and that's
Yeah.
what I was raised around. So that's just who I am still.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, what are some of what's like your day to day look like kind of doing missions work there? It sounds like it's probably pretty flexible depending on what the day is. But what's like a typical week look like for you over there?
I try to have like I have like three students that one acronym that I've learned that it's from America and stuff, and the connection has adopted a lot of um, teachings and models and strategizing from like VIA students or like um, the the navigators, think and
Hmm.
so one of the acronyms is a person of faith, you
Hmm.
know, someone who's faithful, available, takes initiative, teachable, and has a heart for God. And so these are students that we want to like invest in and pour into. And there's three, three students where I can see that I'm connected with that I can see, okay, I think this is a faith person, faithful, available, initiative, and so I try to have meetings with at least one meeting with them every week, one meeting with each of the three every week and stuff. Um, and currently, with the semester break, the it's a lot slowed down. But one thing that I'm doing right now is I'm taking flyers and I'm putting them every day on the cafeteria tables and then pick them
Hmm.
back up because it's a rule you have to pick them back up. But it's just a QR code.
Hmm.
Have it. It's just a QR code, and it says, "Do you have? Are you stressed for exams?
Hmm.
Pray for you."
Hmm.
And we've been doing that for just less than a week. Um, we've had a lot of people scan it,
Hmm.
but a lot of people have like filled in the information about what it is and stuff. Um, but that's just like a way, like right now, to be able to be on campus and just to have more presence,
Hmm.
because it has our logo and stuff, and it has information about our ministry and stuff. And so whenever the semester starts back up, then it'll look a lot more like it was in the fall semester of having events, Bible studies every week, events every other week ish, um, being on campus and evangelizing or like doing surveys, spiritual surveys and stuff, and then having those individual one-on-one meetings in between. So that's
Hmm.
that routine and stuff.
Hmm. That sounds really that sounds really cool. Yeah, I like the QR code. That's a neat way just to kind of get their engagement.
Yeah.
Um, I know you were talking to me when you first went there, or before you went there, about like the challenge of you finding a church. So have you been able to find like a church to connect with? How's that process been like for you?
Yeah, I've picked a church that I go to.
Yeah.
It's a cool church. The It's very young, which is
Mm,
good. Like there's college age, kind of like upper high school aged, but it's all in German, and so
mm,
they have a live translation. Um, but I kind of got tired of trying to use the live translation, so now I just worship and then I read my Bible, and then
there
every
you
now
go.
they'll say a word that I know, and I look up, and then I'm like, oh, I'm lost again, and I go back down to to my Bible and stuff. But it's a very nice church. They have really good community,
Mm,
um, and I like where they're heading. Trying to especially engage like this demographic of young people and stuff, and equip them. Um,
mm.
and so that's where I've been going. The church is called Ecclesia, and so
That's cool. Are they based in Germany, or were they like
mm,
planted by missionary? Like what's kind of their, do you know much about their
I
founding?
think they're German founded.
That's
I think
cool.
I think Ecclesia in Braunschweig, where I'm at,
Mm,
is the original, and then they planted another church in a local town not far away. So there's
mm.
two for them.
That's really
And
cool.
mhm.
That's awesome. How do you make sure you're staying like connected with God and getting poured into? I'm sure church is a part of that. But I know I've done short-term mission trips before for like a week or two. And I know even on those, by the end, I'm feeling pretty drained, like physically, spiritually, emotionally, things like that. So how do you manage to stay engaged in your personal faith or growing in your faith, while you're there for such a prolonged period of time?
Yeah. So definitely, I'm reading the Word every day. Like that's
Mhm.
one. I can tell if I skip a day, then I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go back and read. And the only time that I've had to skip so far, like, is like whenever we have ongoing team things. Like we just had a team retreat, and where we were out of town and we were doing like strategizing from almost sunrise to it was sunset and stuff. And so those were busy days where there was a couple of days I missed and stuff. But having the regular quiet time and also being constant in prayer, like that's I think one thing that's helped out a lot is I have a lot of free time,
Mhm.
and because it's not like a normal 9 to 5, and so it's a lot of like building your own schedule. But as I'm walking or riding my bike or doing something as I'm going to events or a meeting or just going on campus to be there, having that time to like set aside for just prayer and stuff, and just praying for the events that are coming up, for my walk, for the walks of the students, that I'm investing in, for softened hearts on the campus and stuff. Like that's what I'm spending time praying
Mhm.
about, and I think that's kept my kept my focus, and then also just kept me healthy, like
Mhm.
spiritually and stuff. Is having quiet times and then prayer. And my boss, Alex, who's the leader of the or ministry here, who he wants to come to Arkansas, and so hopefully I'll get to meet him next year.
Mhm.
We have team meetings every week, and that's a point for us to come together and say what are things that we celebrate from last week, what are things that were hard from last week, and then what are things that we're looking forward to in the next week, and just come together. And then we also have a time of prayer for both of us, and so just having that accountability, that discipleship, the mentoring, and stuff like that's another protection to make sure that I'm spiritually filled. And if there was an issue, like to address that issue, like, oh, this was a hard thing, from the
Mhm.
last week, and this is how we can go about it, or this was a great thing from last week, and this is how we'll celebrate it.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm. That's awesome.
yeah,
That's really
and
cool.
then of course, I got to keep up with my homies back in America and stuff, and so getting
Yeah.
in touch with
Yeah,
everybody.
and you're keeping up with week what feels like 36 of our Revelation study or something, whatever it may be. I don't know at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't get
Yeah,
to watch past week. I actually don't tell the pastor, I guess, but I have to go back and catch up on it. But
yeah. We
yeah.
talk a lot about rocks. It's a pretty fun time.
Oh, nice.
Yes, yes, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Geology,
Um, so you're there until October, is that correct?
September. I
September.
I leave September 20th. Um, and so it'll after I spend time with my family and stuff, it'll be October before I probably get back to Little Rock. But yeah,
Mhm. And do you see yourself going back to Germany at any point, or are you still just kind of, you're just focusing on what's in front of you right now, and that'll be something you think about later? What do you, you know?
asking the hard questions. The
Yeah.
uh, it is a huge need for Europe,
Mm,
like to have workers here. Like there's a lack
mm,
of, and the workers that have come out of Germany, well, they're the workers that are available, like they're also in other countries, like the good spiritually fit people to help lead the country. They're also on mission and stuff. And so Germany needs workers. Germany needs people here um, to put in good church plants.
mm,
And majority of the churches that are here have a congregation of like 30, maybe.
mm,
Um, so like there's a huge amount of the population that is just unengaged with local church and stuff. And so having people to have good churches and have outreach and stuff like that's a huge need for Germany. But right now, at least, what my priorities are is definitely I want to finish the year well. I want to put in a lot of groundwork to be able to set up people to take the responsibilities after I leave.
mm,
And so that there's not just like
mm.
responsibilities and stuff after I leave. Um, but whether or not I see myself in Germany in the future is a bigger question that
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But I have been able to get connected to some really really cool people here in Germany, and even like some IMB people that are working in Frankfurt and
Mm,
seeing what they're doing. And there was even like an international church that I went to in Dusseldorf, and that was cool, just to be able to see that, and so it has opened my eyes to the possibilities of what it could look like being a full-time worker in Europe and stuff.
mm, mm. It's interesting to, consider how secular the culture Germany is, because if you study church history, like Germany is like a fertile ground of much of the Reformation. It seems like. So it's interesting that a place that played such a big role in the Reformation and the Protestant movement is now so divorced from that very movement.
Right. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It is interesting. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the events that unfolded after the Reformation, like
Hmm.
World War II. Um, and those were things that hurt Germany spiritually.
Hmm.
I don't think that there was, and even having Germany split afterwards, that's a huge thing, is having Germany split into the actual Germany, and then the DDR, the German
Hmm.
Democratic Republic, that was Soviet or communist,
Hmm.
um, because so the DDR was on the east, the Berlin Wall and stuff, and they had that's actually a worse spiritual side of Germany than the West. The West kept churches, they kept missions, they kept church livelihood all throughout those 50 years ago or whatever. And then on the East, well, more than 50 years, but on the East, like there was rarely any church. There was barely any gospel proclamation or anything like that, because they uh, quieted a lot of the churches. Like they were not
Hmm.
allowed to really talk about the gospel freely and stuff. Like they influenced what they could preach in the church. The government came
Hmm.
and said, no, you can't preach that. And so the health, it's a huge, you can just see it's like night and day. Whenever you go, you could see how the East is versus how the West was. And so
Hmm.
when you take all that as a whole into Germany, it really lowers their um, what's the word? That's another thing. It's like my English has gotten so bad because
Like
it's low.
their morale, their
Yeah,
receptiveness, their
yeah, yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
hmm hmm
So
Well, before we wrap up, how can we as a church continue to be praying for you and the mission work going on in Germany right now?
it would be amazing to see these cultural, social boundaries that, like I talked about, like with friendships and even like with work culture and stuff, to see those things moved. And the way that it typically moves is with young people, and like the college age people are the ones that drive the culture, and so praying for the people that are here at university now and the people that will be coming into university, that they will be able to change that culture through the gospel and stuff. It would be a huge prayer, and things that I've reflected on while being here is like the amount of people that pray for America in America, and we see all these things about revival. We see how the church is growing kind of throughout America, especially in my generation. The pendulum is moving away from secular back into a religious side of things. I'm like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. How many people have been praying for America all these years? Who has prayed for Germany? I mean,
Mm,
like the Germans have stopped praying for Germany, you know, especially like I said, in the East, like there was no one that was preaching the gospel and praying for Germany, and so uh, being willing to pray that a revival of the young people, or just Germans in general, would start. It might not start with this generation, but in the generations to come and stuff, is a huge prayer. But we ask our big God to do big things, and so
mm,
uh, and then, but like specifically whenever we go out on campus, give us boldness to go out on campus, to be able to share freely, and to not shy away, because it's really easy to say like, oh, they don't want to hear about the gospel, they don't want to hear about what Jesus did for them, and
mm,
stuff. Say it anyways. Like I have a bracelet now that it has like a gospel presentation on it,
mm,
and very easy tool to say like, hey, can I tell you this story real quick, can I tell you something that's impacted my life, and usually if you open it like that, they'll say, yeah, sure,
mm,
they'll and so whenever those times come, that God would move in their hearts and that would open their eyes to see Him as worthy of their worship. You can also pray for the students to have the boldness to share with their friends, because I can only do so much. I'm an outsider. I'm an Ausländer, as the Germans say. I'm not one of them. I'm American. And so for the German students themselves, for the people that grew up in Germany, for them to take the gospel to their friends, their neighbors, and stuff makes such a bigger impact. But they're told that that's not good to do. So for them to have that boldness to be able to go and do that is another way that you can pray. And so,
Absolutely. Well,
mhm.
Cody, I appreciate you, taking time. It looks like it's dark there. What is it, like 7:30 there right now?
8:35.
8:30. Yeah, it's getting close to your bedtime, I'm sure.
Well, I'm in college ministry now. I got
Oh, that's
to
right. Yeah, you'll be up
already.
till at least 2 a.m., right? Yeah. Well, Cody, thank you for taking time to hop on Zoom with me, and we're praying for you here at Calvary, and I know you're doing a lot of really good work there, and we definitely miss you. We're excited to see you when you get back. We have a pew saved for you.
Okay, good.
We haven't put a plaque on it yet, but everyone knows, that's where Cody's going to sit when he comes back. So
Always in the
well,
back.
exactly, the back right if you're on the stage.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Cody, you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I appreciate you hopping on with me today.
Thank you. Thank you. I love y'all. I'm praying for y'all too. And so I'm looking forward to coming back. So it'll be good.
Awesome.